kita mahu terus Skype bersama saudara Han Tan, penganalisis pasaran FXTM. Han, thanks so much for joining us. I originally wanted to talk to you about the COVID-19 stimulus plan. We still will touch on it a bit, but obviously big announcements. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has confirmed that it's still a stalemate in terms of finding support for who the next PM is going to be. It's going to be thrown back to the Dewan Rakyat in a few days from now, 2nd of March. So that's at least another week or almost a week of uncertainty. What do you think this will do to the markets and foreign investor sentiment?
Right, for the dollar ringgit, according to my charts, here's a number for you to look up for, 4 ringgit 20 cent. That's the ringgit versus the dollar that I'm looking at as long as this political drama plays out. Even as we saw today during Tun M's speech, we saw the ringgit bouncing off that 420 support line against the dollar and then inching slightly higher. I think that's a psychological mark that markets have right now. As long as these political uncertainties cloud investors' minds, on top of that, you've also got the uncertainties surrounding COVID-19. I think that's expected to keep the ringgit dampened at these levels.
Well, today, it's actually for the past 5 minutes, the possibility of GE15 has become much stronger. It's very much on the table now. A lot of economists have told me that a general election is not good generally for the economy. So we're possibly heading there. What do you think this will do towards how foreign investors are looking at the local markets now?
Yeah, I think it's very different this time around, because if you look at how other elections play out, in the lead up to it, there's plenty of campaigning. And investors get plenty of time to digest what kind of policies are on the table. So again, markets are very much viewing this through the prism of political continuity, or what kind of new policies may actually come about. This time around, though, we're not even sure who is actually going to be prime minister or what the makeup of the government will be. And hence, when it comes to, say, what kind of policies are on the table, there are plenty of question marks there. Now, granted, these kinds of stimulus measures that we just heard a few minutes ago from the prime minister, the interim prime minister, that does shore up investor sentiment quite a bit. But in terms of the policy outlook, I think there are still some major question marks that cannot be resolved until we actually first get past the impasse, answer the question first as to who will actually lead the government and what the coalition will bring to the policy table.
Hi, Shafizan speaking here. My question is, what is your opinion about the proposal, or there are certain quarters in Malaysia speaking or giving opinions to a proposal to stop trading, for Bursa Malaysia to stop its trading. What do you think about that?
I don't think there'll be a right move there, because you want to present as much normalcy as you can to the markets, right? You don't want to have this knee-jerk reaction whereby you just halt everything until the coast clears. I think some semblance of normalcy, that is what investors are looking out for. Hence this announcement around the support measures, I think that was important. You've got various civil servants or arms of the civil service still going about their business as usual. That is what investors want to look out for. Now, ultimately, at the decision-making level, at the cabinet level, that is still that big void that has to be filled. And once that is filled, that's going to remove a lot of doubt around market sentiment.
I want to ask you what the government can do to improve investor sentiment, but the government is basically one man now. So what can Dr. Mahathir do, or anyone in power or in influence can do now to soothe investor sentiment a bit?
I think the obvious one here is the sooner the better, right? As soon as you can get over this, and as soon as there is decision makers at the government level that can actually roll out and implement these policies, or maybe even new policies, or at least, we have to wait and see there. I think that's the key issue there. So the sooner that we can get over this political impasse, the better.
We do have to talk about this COVID-19 economic stimulus plan. It does send a signal that something is being done to jolt the economy back into full force, possibly, hopefully, but it does take away 20 billion ringgit from the government coffers. So it kind of cuts both ways. How do you think this will be perceived in the markets?
Yeah, so this ties into what we discussed, I believe, last week, Lukman. If you recall, I mentioned about perhaps a 10, 20 basis point slippage to the fiscal deficit target. And here we have it confirmed by the interim Prime Minister that the fiscal deficit target for this year is 3.4% versus the previous target set for this year. But perhaps using the glass half full approach, if you look at just the quantum of the of this support package, and I'm just using some back of envelope calculations here that I could in the few minutes that I had. Look, it appears to be larger than Singapore's stimulus package and also larger than Hong Kong's stimulus package, all announced in recent weeks. So this 20 billion ringgit package amounts to some 4.76 billion US dollars. Singapore's is right at around 4 billion. Hong Kong's is less than 4 billion US dollars. So there is this clear show of willingness and also ability that the Malaysian government, the one-man government, is showing right now in order to ensure that these economic priorities are maintained.
I want to point to a very interesting paragraph in the economic stimulus plan. Kalau kita boleh kongsikan apa yang saya kongsikan di surface sekarang ini. Point number 29 says the government is cognizant that the implementation of this economic stimulus package cannot be successfully delivered by the government alone. That's number 29. So therefore, the government calls on the private sector to play their part in ensuring that this package is successful. How cooperative do you think, Han, in this economic climate, uncertainty politically, will the private sector be in, basically taking up this call by the government?
Right. Well, I think the financial incentives are clearly there. It's a classic case when it comes to policy transmission. When you have these supportive measures roll through. Now, say, for example, some of the measures I saw in the speech was, things revolving around the cash flow, revolving around taxes, and also, when it comes to paying back loans. So the idea is that with this ease in cash flow, that they can continue doing their business as normal and try to push out their goods and services to the market as much as possible. Now, on the demand side, you're also seeing plenty of financial incentives there. So, for example, the EPF contributions, that will be lowered for this year. There are also cash handouts for individuals in key sectors like healthcare and also tourism, especially. So you've got a healthy mix of demand side and supply side policies here. And speaking about supply side, I think this one point is very, very pertinent that we have to be aware of, because it's in these moments of economic hardship that if you can push through this impetus for supply side policies. So the one being, for some employees in these affected sectors to then upskill themselves, and the government then providing the financial incentives for that. I think that's key, and that's very, very timely, and that's very astute by these policymakers. So I think overall it's a healthy mix of demand side, supply side policies. He's able to roll out a package of almost $5 billion US dollars while keeping the fiscal consolidation agenda intact. I think that warrants a lot of merit there.
Han, the next episode of this, political drama will only be known next week on Monday. So tomorrow, Friday, the market going to operate as usual. What do you expect for tomorrow, Han?
Yeah, so I primarily look at the FX market. So when it comes to, say, dollar ringgit, which is, I'm sure, most pertinent to your viewers there, again, that 420 psychological mark, that is key there. If you see dollar ringgit break below that, that shows that investors are starting to take to heart some of these reassurances that the interim Prime Minister has conveyed just moments ago. But I think overall there will still be this cautious mood in the market because these are still uncertain times. So again, it's not just the domestic political uncertainty that we're contending with and how it filters through to the policy front, but also the macroeconomic perspective as well. The global economy was fragile entering 2020, and then right in mid-January, we are hit by this coronavirus outbreak, which is dampening the second largest economy in the world and also filtering through now into the U.S. as well. So we have to see how this is reflected in the hard data over the coming months. Long story short, I think it's a cautious approach to Malaysian assets for the near term.
All right, lastly, Han, I do want to come back a bit into the COVID-19 economic stimulus plan. We now may well see a new government not too long from now. But this plan has got, covers a lot of different sectors which is in trouble because of COVID-19. It's kind of comprehensive in that way. So Even with the new government, do you think this plan will be affected at all? How about policy continuity? Do you think this will be executed or this will change in any way?
Well, if there's going to be a change, I just hope that they add more to it if the need arises. Because I think if you look at some of those measures in the speech, I think Tun Mahathir also left some items open-ended, right? Because I think some of the monthly incentives that could roll on if the situation prolongs. Keep in mind, next week it's March already, and if this coronavirus outbreak extends into Q2, then we could see perhaps another round of supportive measures by both the fiscal and monetary sides here. So I think, whoever comes into power, I think it's imperative that they keep the economic objectives, the well-being of the people, especially those who are directly impacted by this coronavirus outbreak, those in the healthcare sector who have done a phenomenal job, those in the tourism sector who are certainly feeling the brunt there, aviation, etc. I think, policymakers, it's imperative that whoever comes in, they keep those folks, those good folks, front and center when it comes to how they go about settling in Putrajaya.